Hello, colleagues. I am recording a screencast walkthrough to talk to you about this best practice checklist for professors who have students with accommodations. This checklist I created this summer, and I wanted to share it with my colleagues so as to clarify some of the work we do with students who present with accommodations. And usually, students present with accommodations at the beginning of the semester, which is why I wanted to talk to you about this now. And so, as we go through the list, we need to keep in mind that it is our responsibility to pay close attention to accommodations a few students have to help them succeed in our courses. And this is usually a small number of students. Often, I usually have one or two students who have accommodations in my classes. So, this work is important and frequent, although not as frequent to the degree that all of us know what we should and should not do, and hence why I wanted to create this checklist. So, the way we work with the particular needs of each student is as a team effort for everyone to succeed in our classes. So, students often email professors ahead of time to let us know that they are in need of accommodations by attaching a PDF of their accommodations letter with their email. And also, the folks at the Disability Office, either the Accessibility Center here at CCD or Disability Support Services at Front Range, will often send this letter for the student as a PDF to professors via Outlook. And so we need to keep our eyes out for these letters and respond to them as quickly as possible, while keeping in mind each accommodation letter is customized per student according to the student's accommodations in relation to what the disability office specified in each letter, working with each student. And keep in mind, again, all letters are not the same. And it's also important to carefully respond to the student and the accessibility office. And so always respect the students who have accommodations. And also, we are not in a position to ask them what their disabilities actually are. And we also have a responsibility to honor each student's accommodation as an expansion of our class policies. So remember that you are working in relation to what the student is needing in terms of accommodations, as that is also something that is in relation to your class policies. So there needs to be some flex there. And so we need to take the time to get super clear on the specifics of each accommodation as written in each letter. And so this step is something that we need to be clear on as we're talking to the disability office or as we're talking to each student. And so this clarification is best handled in two ways, preferably both ways. And so with A here, this step is not necessary in every single case, although it is helpful if you're not familiar with what's going on in terms of each accommodation. So it's always wise to contact the disability office in person or by phone. With the kind folks at the disability office, go through each accommodation to get clear on what the parameters of what each accommodation actually entails for the students in relation to your class policies. So learning the specifics of the parameters is extremely helpful to know before you talk to the student. So what I mean by this is if there is, say, an accommodation with regard to attendance and you offer participation points and the student needs leniency with attendance grading, what time frame or what percentage of points can we refer to that is fair for the student to receive in light of the accommodation? So in other words, how many days out of the semester can they miss? That is fair. And then likewise, what percentage of the participation points, say if you offer participation points, is fair to offer if the student is absent, situations like that. So you want to be really clear on that so that it's clear for you and the student. And the disability office will talk to you about what is required and also what is not required in these areas. And that's always good to know. So likewise, with the student, go through each accommodation as specifically as possible so that both of you are clear on what each accommodation actually means. And this doesn't take very long, but you need to do this so that both of you are clear on, say, what a late policy means, or if they are requesting that they have a recording device. Does a recording device mean that they have their laptop out and etc.? And what that actually entails in terms of using the laptop versus using a recording device, what discretion is to be made there. And so it's often advisable to document all the agreements you and the students have with the accommodations in case you need to reference the parameters in the future. And so this is basically, you need one or two very short sentences to possibly email the student after you've talked to them to clarify what the parameters are per accommodation so that both of you are clear in the future, okay, in case there are issues or discrepancies. And also with this, keep in mind that accommodations are not written in stone, and it's possible to have them amended by the student in relation to the disability office, okay? In other words, if they have an allowance in terms of submitting work late, for example, if the accommodation is for 2 days max or something like that, 2 days max for the late work for the student might then, when the semester is underway, submit work 3 days late. So in other words, know that there's a difference between 2 days and 3 days, and that if the student in fact needs 3 days, but their letter only specifies 2 days, that they need to talk to the accommodations office in order to change this. And you need to see the letter changed in order for you to make that allowance in terms of your policies. And also with this, we also have the option here to make the extension or to allow for the extension without the official change. Yet you need to be clear with the student what that change actually is, so that you are clear throughout the semester and the student is clear throughout the semester, so that this isn't open to abuse or other such problems. And so with everything you do, to work with students, be as consistent as possible in observance of all their accommodations, so as to build caring trust with you and the student. So this requires that we are respectful of each student and our own policies. So in other words, you also need to be respectful of your own policies as well in relation to what the student is asking for. And so if you are inconsistent with your own policies, you risk an abuse of the guidelines, and the student is not completely clear on what is required for your class and also future classes. So what I mean here is that if there's this leniency or there's not clear boundaries as far as what they can and cannot do, and they're not clear, they might think that this lack of clarity is something that carries over to other classes. And the allowances are much more lenient than someone who might be in stricter observance of the accommodations the students present with. So likewise, it's also wise to keep an eye on Navigate by way of banner per student. And so this also is where you'll find, not always, important information such as the student's GPA, courses they've taken and are currently taken, classes they've withdrawn from. You'll also see if there are any other areas of concern and or complaints with the student to keep in mind while you're working with them as a team. So this could be something that you discover to open your eyes as far as problems that you could deter with the student as you are working with them as a team. And I'm also curious to know if there are any other helpful tips that we could add to this list from your range of experiences with students that present with accommodations. And so I've included my emails here, and so also have an enlightened semester, and I wish you the best of success helping students with accommodations, because this is not something to be taken lightly. And it's an important step that we don't always talk about that is important. So thank you, and talk to you later.